Hey folks, welcome to the final video, VSCode wrap-up and SSH passwordless login. So one thing I forgot to mention is compiling stuff. I said I was going to mention it. It's really not any different than before. You're just going to, do your terminal. Let's open new terminal with Control-Shift-P and say we want to go to lab 0 and compile our thing. I already compiled it before, but let's say I hadn't. Just use your clang minus wall, minus extra, whatever else you want. Welcome.cpp. You get your a.out. If it succeeds, if clang succeeds, silent. A.out, welcome to CS15, welcome to VSCode. You're going to want to make sure you do use comp15 every time you log in. This has a lot of benefits, not least of which is clang is much faster because it's Matt Russell's version of clang. Thank you, Matt Russell. Much more optimized for this course. If you don't want to type that every time, or if you think you're going to forget, go home, CD with no arguments always takes us home. As you can see, pwd, I'm home. Let's go to our CSHRC file. So open it with the code command. That opens it up here. We have use -q comp15. This is what you want. Definitely use the -q flag. Otherwise, it can hang your terminal. Not good. So have this in your C-shriek. You can sign out or log in, or you can source your file on the command line by doing source.cshrc. You only have to do this one time after you add it, and it'll work every time. You'll be using comp15. This is essential for the course because you won't be able to use Valgrind otherwise, and you need to use Valgrind. Plus, your clang will be a lot slower. You'll be miserable. That's that. I'm going to get rid of this file that I used for a demo. We'll talk about it later. Now, let's do SSH passwordless login. How this works, very simply, is we're going to give our server a public bit of information that corresponds to a private bit of information we're going to hold. They're going to have a secret conversation under the hood, and that will let us log in without a password. There are faster ways to do this than the way I'm going to do this, but this way works for both Mac and Windows, effectively everything I'm doing. So just follow these instructions, whether you're Mac or Windows. You probably figured out Windows by this point, but I am familiar with Macs and programming Macs. I know you have to be slightly different, some of your stuff, but it should work. Mac, open terminal, Windows, open PowerShell, not CMD. You don't want CMD for this. It's not going to work. Not everything you do is going to work. You want PowerShell. This is because PowerShell recognizes the SCP command. So let's go actually back home. So no matter where you are in your PowerShell, you just want to do C/users, C:\users/ whatever your username is. Mine's Roger. PowerShell recognizes ls, which is nice. Otherwise, you'd have to do dir, but ls works. So here we are. Here's all my stuff. Let's go into .ssh. Now, if you're in Mac, you just are going to do cd, take you home. Doesn't really work with Windows, so just do cd and Mac, take you home. And this is on your, all logged into your computer, not logged into the homework server, but logged into your computer. So we're going to do cd.ssh. Now, if it says no SSH, okay, that's fine. Make one. mkdir.ssh. No problem. All right. If you do have one, go into it. Let's look around. And if you make dir, obviously go into it. Mine has some stuff. It has config, idrasa.pub, known hosts. Okay, yours might not have much in it. That's okay. If it doesn't have idrasa and idrasa.pub, you'll have either both or none. Then you're going to do this, Mac or Windows, same. SSH-keygen. It's a command. Run it. It's going to generate a public and private pair. It's going to say which folder you want to save it to. I do want to save it to this folder. Now, I don't want a new one. I want the one that I have, so I'm just going to kill this process. But for you, if you want to kill a process, Control-C or Command-C. Actually, in Mac, it's also Control-C. So both is Control-C. Odd time when you use Control in both situations. Otherwise, you're just going to press Enter for that directory. It's going to ask you for a passphrase. I would recommend using a passphrase for this. That it's not, you're not hiding particularly sensitive information on the place you're giving it to. If you're ever needing to do really secure work, I would use a passphrase. But as security things go, you should always pay attention to security when working over networks or anything to do with CS. Using SSH passphrases is usually a little bit more than necessary. But again, keep it in mind if you ever do work that needs to be confidential. It'll say enter for no passphrase or empty for no passphrase. You just hit enter and then hit enter again. And then it'll generate this nice little pretty picture for you, which is a visualization of your key. And now your key will exist. It'll say here, IDRSA pub, same Mac and Windows. Now we're going to give our public key to the server. How this works is the server, every time we log in before asking for a password, it's going to encrypt a secret message using the public key, which we can give to anyone. And it's going to send that message to us. That message can only be decrypted using our private key. We're going to decrypt it using the private key. We're going to send it right on back. The server is going to recognize that message that it sent, and it was decrypted. So it recognizes that only I, who have my private key, could have decrypted it. And it's going to say, must be you, must be your computer. I don't need to ask for your password. Because of this, and for pretty obvious reasons, you cannot give this file IDRSA, which is your private key, to anyone. You can't share it with anyone. You can't show the output to anyone, even for a second, because they can take a picture. Just imagine it's a password, right? Seems pedantic, but it's the same as a password. It's as secure as a password and should be treated as such. Your public, you can give to people. That's fine. That's what it's for. IDRSA.pub. Make sure it's the .pub. So we're going to give it to the server. How do we do that? We use SCP. It's like CP, copy, but secure, S, over a connection. SCP, 2 arguments like CP, target, destination. IDRSA.pub, make sure we have that one. Destination, this one's a little trickier. It's the thing you write after you write SSH when you log in. That's your UTLN. For me, that's Alberto03 at homework.cs.tufts.edu, colon, no space, colon, tilde. Tilde is usually top left of your keyboard. Now, if you don't have that, just do /h/UTLN. For me, that's Alberto03. If it works, it'll show you the name and some numbers. One of the few Unix commands that does not succeed silently, kind of breaks the rule of silence, but there's a reason for that. We want to make sure it worked over a network. Now it's there. So now we go from our computer world to the homework server world. We can do that by navigating to VSCode if we're already logged in, or SSH logging in, right? Now we're here. Let's look around. Oh, look, IDRSA.pub. That wasn't there before. Here's important. We have to rename it. We're going to use that doing MV, like CP takes 2 commands. MV is move, target, destination. Also can be rename, target, new name are the 2 commands, 2 arguments. IDRSA.pub. Spell this correctly. Authorized keys. I myself, see, I spelled it wrong. I myself have spelled it wrong before. Never ends well. Nothing bad will happen, but it just won't work. Authorized keys. Spell that right. There we go. Authorized keys. Now we're going to go into the homework servers.ssh. Make sure you're home. Look in your .ssh. You should definitely have a folder. This should definitely exist. If it doesn't, just make one, but that would be extremely weird. And you're going to do MV authorized keys into .ssh. To do that, mine was already there. Excuse me. Mine was already there. But here it is, authorized keys. If you ever MV a file into a directory, if it has the same name as a file directory, it'll silently overwrite it. You have to be careful with this command. Here it is. Now, if we look in there, this is what it says. This is my public key. I can show you my public key. That's fine. I'm not going to show you my private key, but it'll basically say SSH-RSA space something a little bit verbose, and then something to help you remember. Now, the computer recognized this as an authorized key. So now we can log out. We can close VSCode. We can log out of whatever connection we want. When we open it back in, takes a minute to load, but under the surface, really incredibly quickly, it's doing this connection back and forth. Encrypt with the public key, you decrypt with the private, sends it back, no need for a password. Once it's finished loading, you notice there's no password prompt up top. It's just going to start opening the remote connection down in the corner. And there we are. Similarly, this isn't VSCode exclusive. I can log in. No password, no problem. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know if there's anything else you want to know. If you have any questions, ask me or any of the course staff. We're all pretty familiar with this stuff. This is a course about coding and programming. It's always good to know about the network stuff, but we're not testing you on how well you can debug it. So please let us know if you have any questions. We're happy to help. And hopefully this will prevent you from having any of those issues you've been having with Atom, or maybe anything else that you've used in the past. Nice to see you all, and I'll see you soon.